My name is Vanessa, and at 32, I've dedicated the past decade to building my career at Morgan Stanley's investment banking division. While my younger sisters, Olivia and Camille, were focused on starting their families, I was climbing the corporate ladder, eventually reaching the position of vice president. Don't get me wrong, I love my job and the view from my corner office on the 47th floor of our Manhattan headquarters. But sometimes, during those late nights reviewing merger documents, I wonder if I missed out on something along the way. No husband, no kids, just me and my premium leather executive chair that probably costs more than my sister's monthly mortgage payments. It was a typical Tuesday morning when my phone lit up with Olivia's name. At 26, my youngest sister had always been the bubbly one, though her enthusiasm usually came with a price tag attached. I answered while sorting through a stack of IPO documents on my glass desk. "Hey V." Olivia's voice chirped through my iPhone speaker. "Got a minute?" "Sure, what's up?" I shuffled some confidentiality agreements aside, half listening as I reviewed our latest client's financials. "So, you know Mom's turning 60 in 2 months, right?" She paused for effect, a habit she'd perfected over years of asking for favors. "Well, we're planning something special and we need everyone to chip in." That got my attention. I set down my Mont Blanc pen, already dreading the number that was about to come out of her mouth. When Olivia named the figure, I nearly choked on my $7 artisanal coffee. It was more than my last business class flight to London, which, come to think of it, was just 3 months ago for a merger deal. "I know it's a lot," Olivia rushed to add, her voice taking on that sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "But it's for Mom, you know." No, it's fine," I said, already pulling up my banking app on my second monitor. "I'll transfer it right now." "Great. Oh, and one more thing, make sure you take a week off work for the celebration. Don't plan anything else for that time, okay?" I glanced at my calendar, already populated with board meetings and client presentations. "When exactly?" "We'll let you know," she said quickly. "Just keep your schedule flexible." The next few weeks flew by in a blur of merger negotiations and earnings reports. I'd occasionally wonder what my sisters were planning with all that money, but whenever I asked, they'd brush me off with vague responses. Eventually, work took over, and Mom's birthday slipped to the back of my mind, buried under quarterly projections and market analyses. Then came the Saturday dinner at my parents' house in Connecticut. We all gathered there, Mom and Dad, my sisters, Uncle Robert's family, including my cousins Gabriel and Isabel. The familiar chaos of family dinner surrounded us, Dad attempting to discuss the stock market, though he'd never worked in finance, Mom fussing over everyone's plates, the usual stuff. That's when Olivia dropped her bomb. "So," Olivia said, pushing her organic quinoa around her plate with calculated casualness, "we finally got everything arranged for Mom's birthday. We're all going to spend a week at the Four Seasons Resort in Vail." The table erupted in excited chatter. Mom was beaming, Dad was already talking about hitting the Black Diamond slopes, and my sisters were discussing which spa treatments they wanted to try first. "Why didn't anyone tell me earlier?" I asked, feeling that familiar outsider sensation creeping in. "I don't even have proper ski gear, and there's barely any time to get fitted now." The table got quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that falls in a boardroom right before someone gets fired. Mom cleared her throat, and I felt my stomach drop before she even opened her mouth. "Actually, honey," she said with that tone she used when she was about to ask for something that would cost me either money or time, usually both, "we were hoping you could do us all a huge favor and watch the kids while we're there." I stared at my family gathered around the mahogany dining table, waiting for someone to laugh, to say it was all a joke, but the silence stretched on, broken only by the soft clink of sterling silver against Wedgwood china. "You want me to watch the kids?" I finally managed to say, my voice sounding as foreign as a hostile takeover bid. "All 5 of them?" My mind started counting them off automatically: Camille's toddler, Jason; Olivia's baby girl, Lucy; cousin Gabriel's twins, Tom and Anna; and Isabel's son, Pete. 5 kids under the age of 7. "Well, you're so good with them," Mom said as if that explained everything, adjusting her new tennis bracelet, a gift from Dad that probably cost what I spent on my first car. "They love their Aunt Vanessa." I looked around the table again, still hoping to see a hint of humor in someone's eyes. There was none, just expectant faces waiting for my usual yes, the same way my junior analysts waited for my approval on their financial models. "But that's not fair," I heard myself say, my voice carrying the same edge I used in tough negotiations. "I want to celebrate with everyone too. It's Mom's birthday." Camille, my 28-year-old sister, put down her fork with a sigh that reeked of condescension. "Come on, Vanessa, you'll be bored there anyway. It's going to be noisy and crowded. You're used to your quiet condo and your perfect routine." "Bored?" I repeated, feeling like I was defending a merger strategy to skeptical shareholders. "How would you know if I'd be bored?" "Well," she continued, exchanging knowing glances with Olivia like they were co-conspirators in a deal I wasn't privy to, "you're great with the kids, they adore you, and let's be honest, it's not like you need a break from family life." I felt my chest tighten, the same way it did before making million-dollar decisions. "What's that supposed to mean?" Olivia jumped in, her voice carrying that condescending tone she'd perfected since marrying into old money. "She just means that you don't have children or a husband to get away from. The rest of us need this break. I mean, you spend most of your time in that fancy office anyway, right?" The organic vegetables on my plate blurred as I blinked back tears. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I hadn't cried in the office when I made VP, and I wouldn't cry now. Instead, I quietly pushed back my chair, the sound echoing against the hardwood floors. "Vanessa," Mom's voice held a note of concern, but not enough to actually stop her from sipping her expensive Chardonnay. Without a word, I grabbed my Hermes bag from the counter and headed for the door. Nobody moved to stop me, nobody called out. The only sound that followed me was Mom's voice drifting from the dining room. "Don't worry, she'll come around. She always does. She knows what family means." As I walked to my Mercedes in the circular driveway, their voices faded behind me, already moving on to discussing ski instructors and winter wardrobes. The evening air was crisp against my face, helping to clear my head the same way a late-night walk through Manhattan did after a tough day at the office. 10 years of putting everyone else first, of being the responsible one, the reliable one, and this is what I got in return. The worst part wasn't even the babysitting request, it was the casualness with which they'd assumed I'd agree, the way they'd planned this whole thing without me, using my money, my time, my vacation days, without even asking, as if I was just another asset to be leveraged, not a member of the family to be included. I spent half the night pacing around my penthouse apartment, my Louboutins long discarded by the door, replaying every family dinner, every holiday, every moment when I dropped everything to help someone else. The memories came flooding back, each one taking on a new, darker meaning in light of tonight's events. There I was at 16, making dinner while Mom helped Camille with her homework, me at 18, turning down a spring break trip to Cancun with friends to watch Olivia while our parents took a weekend getaway to the Hamptons, at 21, working 2 internships during business school to help pay for Camille's private college tuition. The images kept coming year after year, sacrifice after sacrifice. "Vanessa, can you watch Jason for a few hours?" Camille's voice echoed in my head. I need to get my hair done at that new salon in Soho. Vanessa, would you mind taking the twins for the weekend? Gabriel's familiar request played back like a broken record. Isabel's overwhelmed with Pete, and you're so good with kids. Plus, your place is so much bigger than ours. I'd always said yes. Always. Even when I had crucial client meetings the next day, even when I was exhausted from 80-hour work weeks, I'd taken pride in being the reliable one, the responsible sister, the perfect daughter. Being the family's safety net had become as much a part of my identity as my career achievements. I collapsed onto my Italian leather sofa, the cool material a stark contrast to the warmth of the Manhattan lights twinkling through my floor-to-ceiling windows. The photo albums on my custom-built coffee table caught my eye. Family vacations where I was always the one behind the camera. Holiday gatherings where I was always in the kitchen while everyone else laughed in the living room. When was the last time someone had asked me what I wanted? It's not like you need a break from family life. Olivia's words kept echoing in my head as if my life, my career, my choices were somehow less valid because I wasn't married with children, as if all my sacrifices, the missed holidays, the late-night emergency babysitting, the small loans that were never repaid, meant nothing because they didn't fit their definition of what mattered. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I tossed and turned in my king-size bed, remembering how I'd worked through Wharton Business School on a scholarship, determined not to burden my parents financially, how I'd started my career immediately after graduation, helping to put both my sisters through their liberal arts colleges, all those late nights at the office climbing the corporate ladder, sending chunks of my salary home to help with family expenses. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't a confrontational person. You don't make VP in investment banking by burning bridges. There had to be a way to resolve this peacefully, to make them understand without causing a family rift. So, I did what I'd always done when there was a problem. I tried to fix it like I would approach a difficult merger. I waited until a reasonable hour on Sunday morning before picking up my phone. Mom answered on the third ring, probably just back from her tennis lesson. "Hi, Mom," I said, keeping my voice as steady as I did during board presentations. "I've been thinking about the Vail trip. Actually, I have a solution. I'll pay for a professional nanny service for all 5 kids. Top tier, fully vetted, with excellent references. That way, everyone can enjoy the celebration together." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for a moment too long, like a pause before rejecting a proposal. "That won't work, Vanessa," Mom finally said, her voice tight. "We can't trust some stranger with the children. They're used to you." "Mom, I want to be part of the celebration too," I tried to explain, using my most persuasive client pitch voice. "I want to be there for your birthday. I could find the best childcare service in the city, someone with impeccable credentials." "You're not exactly a social butterfly," she cut me off, her voice sharp as a hostile takeover. "You'd probably be uncomfortable with all the noise and activity anyway. The children will keep you busy, and you enjoy spending time with them. It's perfect for everyone." The click of the call ending echoed in my ear before I could respond, reminiscent of doors closing after failed negotiations. I was still staring at my phone, processing my mother's abrupt hang-up, when it buzzed again. Olivia's name flashed across the screen. "How dare you?" she hissed before I could even say hello. "Mom just told me about your little suggestion about hiring a nanny. Are you trying to ruin everything?" I sat up straighter in my ergonomic office chair, my sister's hostile tone catching me off guard like an unexpected market crash. "Ruin everything? I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone. We already have a solution." Olivia's voice rose to a pitch that would make a fire alarm envious. "Everything's planned, Vanessa, everything. And now you're being completely selfish, trying to change all our arrangements at the last minute. The accusation hit me like a failed IPO presentation. I'm being selfish? Yes, you are. We've been planning this for weeks. Everyone's excited. The Four Seasons is booked, the ski lessons are scheduled, the spa treatments are reserved, and now you want to throw a wrench in everything because you can't just do this one thing for the family? My hand started shaking, gripping my phone like it was the last share in a bullish market. One thing? Are you serious? You know what? If you ruin this trip for everyone, if you spoil Mom's birthday celebration, don't bother talking to me again. I mean it, Vanessa. The line went dead faster than a tech startup's funding. I sat there, stunned by my baby sister's threat, when my phone buzzed with incoming messages. This time from Camille. Family needs to stick together, her first text read. We all help each other out. Another message popped up. Remember when I watched your condo that weekend you went to London for work? And another, you're good with the kids. They love you. Why can't you just forget about being resentful and think about what's best for the family? My fingers flew across the keyboard as I replied, channeling the same precision I used in corporate emails. A real family doesn't take advantage of each other. A real family respects each other's wishes and includes everyone in their plans. A real family doesn't manipulate and guilt-trip each other. I watched the three dots appear and disappear several times, like a volatile stock price, but no response came. That's when it hit me, the way they'd asked for money without explaining what it was for, the careful way they told me to take time off work without mentioning the Four Seasons, the casual way they'd announced their plans at dinner as if everything was already set in stone. They'd planned this all along, executing it with the precision of a hostile takeover. While I was working late nights, while I was babysitting their kids, while I was being the perfect daughter and sister, they were secretly arranging this trip. They'd used my money, arranged my schedule, and planned to dump 5 children on me without so much as a conversation. And now that I wasn't playing along with their script, they were trying every manipulation tactic they could think of, guilt, threats, emotional blackmail, to force me back into the box they'd created for me. Something strange happens when you finally see through the fog of manipulation. It's like when a complex market pattern suddenly becomes clear. Everything snaps into focus. I felt lighter than I had in years, like I'd just closed the biggest deal of my career. The guilt that had been weighing me down was replaced by something else, determination. I opened my laptop, the same one I used to make million-dollar decisions, and started searching. Within an hour, I had booked a suite at the Ritz-Carlton in Grand Cayman. Nothing too extravagant by my standards, but it had a private balcony overlooking 7 Mile Beach and a dedicated concierge. I even upgraded to first class on my favorite airline. After all, I had plenty of money since I wouldn't be skiing at Vail. The next few days at the office were surprisingly peaceful. My family had stopped calling and texting, probably assuming I was home preparing for a week of childcare, maybe buying extra organic snacks and planning educational activities. The thought made me smile as I packed my resort wear and new swimsuits from Neiman Marcus. Taking a tropical vacation in the middle of winter, my colleague Jessica asked when she saw me checking the Cayman Islands weather forecast between client calls. Sometimes you need to do something unexpected, I replied, surprised by how good it felt to say those words out loud, like announcing a successful merger. The morning of my flight, I took one last look around my penthouse. I'd cleaned everything meticulously, force of habit, I suppose. The empty Sub-Zero fridge, the properly locked floor-to-ceiling windows, everything in perfect order, just like my investment portfolios. Except this time, I wouldn't be here to answer any desperate phone calls for emergency babysitting. As the plane took off, I switched off my phone and tucked it into my Bottega Veneta bag. No social media, no email, no family drama. Just me, the Caribbean, and a whole week of freedom that I'd earned with every late night at the office and every sacrificed weekend. The Cayman air hit me like a warm embrace when I stepped out of the airport. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, and I could smell the salt from the ocean, even from here. My suite was even better than the pictures online. The balcony offered a perfect view of the endless blue horizon, and I could hear the waves crashing against the pristine white sand. That first afternoon, I walked barefoot on the beach, letting the warm sand squeeze between my toes, a far cry from the marble floors of my office building. When was the last time I'd done something like this? When was the last time I'd done anything just for me? I swam in the infinity pool, read a novel that wasn't a business book without interruption, and had dinner at a quiet oceanfront restaurant where no one needed me to cut their food or clean up their spills. I watched the sunset from my balcony, sipping a glass of vintage champagne without a single thought about bedtime routines or morning schedules. For the first time in years, my time was truly my own. My last morning in Grand Cayman, I savored my final moments of peace over fresh fruit and coffee on my balcony. I knew I'd have to turn my phone back on eventually, face whatever chaos I'd left behind, but I hadn't expected quite what I found. When my phone finally powered up, it started buzzing nonstop, messages, voicemails, calls, hundreds of them. The timestamp showed they started exactly a week ago, early in the morning. My hands trembled slightly as I began scrolling through them, like reviewing a particularly volatile market report. The first messages were from Olivia. "Where are you?" "We're outside your condo." Then Camille, "Vanessa, open the door. The kids are getting restless." Gabriel, "Hey, we brought Tom and Anna like planned. Are you home?" Isabel, "Vanessa, what's going on?" "Pete's asking for his Auntie V." As I read through the messages, I could picture the scene perfectly. My sisters and cousins standing outside my empty penthouse with 5 confused children, their Louis Vuitton luggage packed for the resort, their carefully laid plans crumbling around them like a failed investment strategy. The tone of the messages changed quickly from confusion to panic. "Vanessa, this isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone. What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear like this." Then came the anger. Olivia's messages turned nasty. "You selfish witch. We had to cancel our spa appointments because of you." Camille wasn't much better. "I can't believe you're this immature. Mom's birthday is ruined because of you. All our deposits at the Four Seasons are non-refundable." My Aunt Susan's messages made me wince. I'd never seen her use that kind of language before, especially not in a text. "You ungrateful little brat. You've ruined everything. These children were counting on you." Mom's messages started later in the day. "I'm so disappointed in you, Vanessa. I never thought you'd be this selfish after everything we've invested in your education." Dad, who rarely texted, had sent just one message: "Your mother is crying. I hope you're happy with yourself." The voicemails were worse. I could hear the anger, the disappointment, the accusations in their voices. Messages from extended family members I hadn't talked to in months suddenly appeared, all of them condemning my behavior. The family grapevine was apparently more efficient than Wall Street's fastest trading algorithms. "You've always been so reliable. How could you do this to your own family? Those poor children. You've ruined everything." I sat there in my peaceful suite, reading message after message, learning exactly what my family thought of me when I finally stopped being their convenient solution. The words they used, the names they called me, the assumptions they made about my character, it was like discovering a long-running fraud in a seemingly perfect company. Without responding to any of them, I packed my bags and headed to the airport. It was time to go home, but I wasn't the same Vanessa who had left a week ago. That Vanessa might have apologized, might have felt guilty, might have tried to make it up to everyone. But that Vanessa was gone, like a retired market strategy. I had just finished unpacking my resort wear when I heard the aggressive pounding on my front door. Before I could even reach it, I heard a key turning in the lock, the emergency key I'd given my mother years ago, just in case. They burst in like angry shareholders at a hostile takeover meeting, Mom leading the charge, Camille and Olivia flanking her sides, all of them red-faced and wild-eyed. The peaceful feeling I'd cultivated in Cayman evaporated instantly. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Olivia screamed, stepping forward in her designer heels. "You ruined everything. Everything." I stood my ground in my own penthouse foyer, watching them unleash their fury in my living room, the same living room where I'd babysat their children countless times, where I'd cancelled my own plans to accommodate their emergencies, where I'd always been the reliable one. Mike and John refused to stay with the kids, Camille spat out, referring to their husbands. They both suddenly had important business to take care of. So Olivia had to stay home with all 5 children while we went to Vail. "She missed Mom's birthday because of you." "The whole trip was ruined," Mom added, her voice rising above the hum of my climate control system. "Nobody could enjoy themselves at the Four Seasons. All we did was talk about how you betrayed us, how you let everyone down. Your father couldn't even focus on his ski lessons, he was so upset." They continued their tirade, talking over each other, each one trying to outdo the others in expressing their disappointment and anger. The more they talked, the more absurd it all seemed, until something inside me broke, but not in the way they expected. I started laughing. The sound of laughter cut through their accusations like a perfectly timed market short. They stopped mid-sentence, staring at me as if I'd lost my mind. "What's so funny?" Mom demanded, her face flushing darker than her expensive highlights. "What could possibly be funny about this situation?" Mom's voice trembled with rage. I wiped tears of laughter from my eyes, feeling as confident as I did closing multi-million-dollar deals. "Don't you see how ridiculous this is? Do you really not understand how absurd you all sound right now?" "Absurd?" Camille sputtered. "What's absurd about you?" "Secretly planned this entire trip," I interrupted, my voice carrying the same authority I used in board meetings. "You decided, without asking me, that I would watch your children. You took my money, told me to take time off work, and then just assumed I would fall in line with your plans. And now that everything fell apart because of your assumptions, you're here calling me the villain?" "But you've always helped before," Mom said, her voice smaller now, confused, like a client realizing their strategy had fatal flaws. "You've never said no." "And that's exactly the problem," I cut in. "Because I always helped, you started taking advantage of me. You stopped seeing me as a daughter or a sister and started seeing me as free childcare. You stopped considering my feelings, my plans, my life. I became nothing more than an asset in your portfolio." "That's not true," Olivia protested, but her voice lacked conviction, like a weak market defense. "Really?" I raised an eyebrow, channeling my best negotiation stance. "Then why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask me if I wanted to go to Vail? Why did you just assume I'd be happy to stay behind with 5 children while everyone else celebrated?" I watched their faces, hoping to see some recognition, some understanding of how they'd treated me. Instead, I saw their expressions harden like closing prices at the end of a bad trading day. "You're being selfish," Mom said, her voice cold. "You've ruined my birthday. You've hurt your sisters. You've disappointed the children. This isn't how I raised you." I felt the last thread of hope snap like a broken contract. No, Mom, you're the ones being selfish. This whole situation is your fault, not mine. Mom drew herself up to her full height, her face like stone. If that's how you feel, then perhaps I don't have a daughter named Vanessa anymore. If that's what you want, Mom, I said quietly, with the same finality I used when terminating unsuccessful deals, then so be it. It's been 6 weeks since that final confrontation in my penthouse, 6 weeks of silence broken only by the occasional notification when one of my family members makes another thinly veiled post on social media. Some people only think about themselves, Mom wrote last week on her perfectly curated Instagram, followed by a dozen sympathetic comments from relatives and family friends who only know her version of the story. Family should always come first, Olivia posted yesterday with a photo of her daughter in a designer baby outfit. So blessed to have people in my life who understand what that really means. #blessed #family first. Camille's latest was a long paragraph about toxic people who destroy family bonds with their selfishness. She didn't tag me, of course, but everyone in our social circle knew who she was talking about. A few months ago, these posts would have devastated me like a market crash. I would have spent hours crafting responses in my head, losing sleep over their words, wondering if maybe they were right. But now, I just scroll past them, sometimes with a small smile at how predictable they've become, like market patterns in a bull run. I've changed my routine. Instead of spending my weekends on standby for emergency babysitting calls, I've joined an exclusive book club in Manhattan. The first meeting felt strange, sitting in a boutique cafe on a Saturday morning, knowing my phone wouldn't ring with a desperate plea from one of my sisters. Last week, I booked another vacation, a luxury cruise through the Mediterranean in the spring. I didn't have to check with anyone's schedule or make sure it wouldn't conflict with someone else's needs. I just saw a good deal and took it, like a smart investment opportunity. Sometimes, in quiet moments between deals, I think about my nieces and nephews. I miss them, but not the way they were used as weapons against me. I hope that someday, when they're older, they'll understand. Maybe they'll even recognize the same patterns in their own lives and choose differently. I still have the emergency key Mom used that last day. I should probably mail it back, but something stops me each time I think about it. Maybe part of me hopes that one day they'll understand, that they'll see how their actions and expectations were unfair, how they took advantage of my love for them, that they'll realize family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to meet everyone else's needs. But I'm not waiting for that day anymore. I'm not putting my life on hold, hoping for their approval or understanding. For the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first, and it feels right, like finally making the perfect investment in myself. Yesterday, I deleted the family group chat from my phone. I didn't make an announcement about it or try to explain myself. I just quietly removed myself from one more obligation, one more source of stress, like divesting from a toxic asset. Some might call this selfishness. My family certainly does. But I've learned that there's a difference between being selfish and having self-respect. Sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is step away from people who can't see your worth beyond what you can do for them, just like knowing when to walk away from a bad deal.